Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Fitness Pollenator Podcast. I'm your host, Travis Pollen, and I'm joined today by my good friend and esteemed colleague, Coach Tom DeVietro. Tom is the co-owner of CrossFit Advance and Max Effort Fitness in Southeastern Pennsylvania, as well as a competitive CrossFit athlete himself. Thank you for joining me, Tom.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Today's hot topic is CrossFit and some of the misconceptions surrounding it. In particular, we're going to discuss how Tom addresses these issues at his box. Without further ado, let's get started with misconception number 1. Everyone gets thrown into the same workout regardless of training age, ability, and goals. Tom?
Okay, so you can go to other CrossFit gyms, and whoever the head coach is, the programmer, the owner, they're going to dictate at their box what you do there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everyone's going to be different. Everyone follows a different outline. So what we put out is we have 4 introduction classes when someone signs up to assess their movements, to see where they're at as far as training age, mobility, stability, everything. So we assess you in 4 sessions, and we say, okay, you're allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. This is what this is where you stand on our progressions leading to this point. When you get to this point in these domains, this will turn into these movements, but this is where you stand. Sometimes, someone will come in and they'll want to go a lot harder. What's on that board is for the best athlete at CrossFit Advance, the top male and the top female. And then we base that off of the CrossFit Games. So we treat it like a sport. There's an in-season, off-season, post-season, and pre-season.
Depending on where you are with respect to the Open and the Games and that?
Yes. We program 4 weeks at a time and quarterly. And that makes up the entire year. And there's always a focus on a couple skills that we'll have for that month, or a progression if we did something the previous month, and focused strength or power. Sometimes it's more focus of power conditioning when we get more towards the Open. And then there's a postseason where we kind of lay back a little bit. We have a little bit more fun, a little bit more feel-good exercises. And it takes the complexity of the movements of the way, and the intensities go back a little bit. It's just a little bit different. It's more therapeutic, if that makes sense.
So every day isn't balls to the wall, go as hard as you can.
No, everyone gets kind of separated into groups by their level. And each day, we have a focus of each day. I know it's constantly varied. We're constantly varied but consistent for 4 weeks. So everyone in the month of November, they know on a Monday they're either going to hold a clean position or perform the clean. They always know on a Tuesday that they're going to do paused front squats or paused goblet squats, and we're doing that for depth, position, and core strength, and a stronger front rack base, which strengthens someone's shoulders, their chest, and especially their abdomen. Every Wednesday, they know they're either going to hold a position in a snatch for stability and strength, or they're going to perform the snatch, and they progress into it each day. So yes, and we let them know. They know what they're doing. Some people don't want to know. Some people want to be left in the blind, but basically, there's a vertical pull day, a vertical press. There's a horizontal pull, a horizontal press. There's a knee-dominant day. There's a hip-dominant day. There's a full-body day. And then some days, it's just a focus on cardio. Some days, it's just a focus on strength. Some days, for example, if there's a Metcon and someone's only been working out for 3 weeks and they haven't worked out ever, they're going to do something very traditional and basic. We'll only let them come 3 times a week. We'll only let them do this amount of reps at this weight with this much rest in between. And that's it for them. And sometimes it's tough for people to handle that, especially people that have problems that you have to correct. And you say, hey, we got to slow down. We got to relearn how to move properly. Once we do that, then we'll add some weight, we'll add some time, and we'll move a little bit faster. But right now, this is where we stand right here.
And that's all based on that assessment that you take of them from their first their introductory classes, you put them somewhere on this progression from, a goblet squat all the way up to an overhead squat, and they know where they stand, you know where they stand, and they take it slow from there.
Yes, for example, the first time that we're going to have someone squat at CrossFit Advanced, it's going to be a body weight squat. We're going to demo it for them, and then we're going to assess. It may be an elevated heel, maybe some bands around their knees, and a goblet squat, right? Those 3 corrections. We're going to watch that first. Then we're going to maybe take away the bands, take away the heels, then just do a regular goblet squat. And then we'll say, okay, we're going to assess your front rack position, and then we make front squat. That's a variation of the goblet squat. It's just a different front rack position. And then we'll show them the different variances of it. And then if that looks good, say, okay, we're just gonna go over a back squat. It's kind of like slapping somebody in the face before they get punched in a fight, so they're aware. We don't expect them to learn the movement fully. That's why you go to class. That's why you have a coach there reteaching you and reinforcing good habits every time you're there, if that makes sense.
I know that some of the CrossFit dogma says that, in order to increase your back squat, you have to back squat. But if your back squat looks like crap, then what good is back squatting going to do? You kind of have to take it back a little bit. How do you guys...
Yes.
Is that something that you guys...
Yes, and I understand that, and I agree with that dogma to an extent, right? Because, a lack of mobility is because you were not mobile. So how do you get better at that movement? You do the movement. And I get that, but to a degree, you have to stabilize first and you have to strengthen, in my opinion. So if someone can't back squat, right, and they're flexing at the waist too much and they start rounding their back, I'm going to straighten out their posture first. I would straighten out their posture first. I love going to a goblet squat. I love going to a box squat or a bench for depth, or maybe putting a med ball underneath of them. For example, a lot of people most common in here is a front rack position, getting those elbows up because of tight lats and whatnot. A lot of people think it's the wrist, which it plays a part, but it's not. It's really like, all right, stretch your lat out and you get that good front rack. But anyway, so if we have heavy thrusters like today, we have heavy thrusters on the whiteboard today. That's in the conditioner. A lot of people will do a goblet squat and then maybe a push press. And those movements combined equate to a thruster. You're going from the lower body to the upper body. So it's still dynamic and metabolic. And you're still getting that focus in there. And eventually that person will progress with some pre-mobility before, post-mobility after. And we all know the more you put into something, the better you're going to get at it. So that transfers in here. And some people really appreciate understanding that you're honest with them. Saying, hey, this is where I stand. And everybody in here, no matter if they're the top athlete or, not as intense athletes, everyone goes through the same thing. They all do. Everyone has some type of correction that needs to be made balanced out, including ourselves. And that's the thing. We do judge here. We judge fitness. That's it. And it's very supportive. But yeah, there's got to be a bare minimum standard. Some standards are created as a coaching staff, putting our minds together. Some of them are traditional standards from books like National Strength and Conditioning Association. We're a big fan of them, and NASM, and but it's trial and error and pass and go, and there's no secret sauce, but there's trying to just keep it as safe and as smart as we can.
With respect to that, do you guys have any specific prerequisites, like maybe for kipping pull-ups or for ring dips, like you can't do this exercise that might be higher risk until you can do this modified version first for X reps?
Well, one, there's a lot of movements that CrossFit. There's a lot of movements. Sorry, I'm coming in like broken up or something. There's a lot of movements that CrossFit and CrossFit competitions and competitors use, like the butterfly pull-up, the kipping pull-up, the kipping dip, high rep ollie lifting, which, if you're doing it as a sport and as an athlete, that's one thing, but to use it as a fitness tool, that's totally different. And then I've walked into gyms where people can do 100 kipping pull-ups in 5 minutes, but they can't do 2 chin-ups. And just here, I'm not saying that the kipping pull-up isn't beneficial. I'm not saying that the butterfly pull-up is not beneficial in what it's used for. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it, but there's a lot more benefits in just general traditional strength. And we focus on that, one. And then just from our experiences between, people doing the kipping pull-ups and how many reps and how much volume they've done and what stage they were at, how they do the movement, we have rules. There's 6 strict dead hang pull-ups if you want to learn and perform the kip or the butterfly. If you want to do a bar muscle up, kipping bar muscle up, you have to be able to hang power clean your body weight. Okay. If someone wants to jump on a box, you have to back squat 1.5 times your body weight. That's what we feel you are strong enough to decelerate using the proper muscles of jumping certain heights on that box. You know how to handle your weight in a stable, safe way. Handstand push-ups, you have to do 6 strict handstand push-ups or be able to press your own body weight overhead to do a kipping handstand push-up.
I like that one. I think I came up with that one too.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ones. You have to be able to do 3 toes to bar to be able to learn how to climb rope, actually, or knees to elbow, because those mechanics are very similar in the way that we conduct it here.
And so these numbers just came from your own experience, or?
Yeah, I would say over just seeing how when people do certain movements, like I said, where they stand in their training age. Because like I said, there's people that can't do 3 strict pull-ups, but they're generating force to get their body up, to get their chin over the bar, and then just coming down, they're not strong enough to decelerate. So agonistically and antagonistically, synergistically, all those domains that you need to go up and down in a movement, they're not fully ready there, right? I say if you can come down in a strict pull-up, you can demonstrate that, and you have the proper tools that need to be there for that more intense. Why is it more intense? There's more speed to it. You come down on a kipping pull-up and you're not strong enough to decelerate. Now you're just decelerating with your joints.
Right.
And now I think that's a recipe for disaster. I don't think it has anything to do with body weight. I don't think it has anything to do with the speed. I mean, that's just another intensity. But there has to be some type of prerequisite to say, all right, this may be a smarter time that we can trust. And there's stipulations to that. There's manipulations to that. If somebody can't do those prerequisite standards, but they can still perform that movement, and we feel that it's safe, I like it too.
You were saying that you guys program a lot of wall balls?
Not a lot of wall balls, but when we do,
yeah,
it's a movement that we'll use on most likely on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. That's essentially a goblet squat into an explosive push press. You throw the ball as high as you can. It's for power. And if we see someone's knees caving in, or if we see someone catching the ball and they can't even catch it, they're rounding at their back and it's just beating the crap out of them, we're not going to have that. That's something we're going to assess before the conditioner even starts, if that makes sense. And we'll have them do a goblet squat and a push press, or maybe a push press for a wall ball, so they don't squat all the way down. They're just not there yet, mobility wise or strength wise. So yeah, that's a common thing that you'll see, and a lot of the assessments happen too during the warm up, as far as hip flexor mobility, vertical press or vertical, all those domains and all those planes. We do a lot of band, a lot of like lateral lunging, multiple plane movements of balance.
I think that's another big misconception, is that CrossFit, all of the movements are occurring in the sagittal plane, flexion extension, because that is a lot of what you see in the CrossFit Games. I guess those movements are easier to standardize and judge, but it's important we move in 3 planes in real life. So how do you guys address that?
Well, always, one and foremost, there's CrossFit as a sport, and then there's CrossFit as using it as a fitness tool for the common, okay, or the non-competitive. There's some people that just want to get generally fit. For example, if I have hang power cleans in a conditioner, some people aren't going to do that. They're just going to do a kettlebell swing because I want some type of hip hingement power output. So that's one thing to think about. It's not like my sister. She doesn't need to know how to snatch with a barbell. She's a mom. She's not really a competitive CrossFit athlete. Yeah, once in a while she'll compete, but she does a lot of dumbbell snatch. Why? One, she doesn't have the mobility for it, and two, she's still getting the benefit that I want out of it, and she needs out of it. And so that's another example.
I think that's awesome.
Fun. Yeah, and like I said too, it depends on the gym. You could go to a gym and they'll incorporate all plane fitness, the sagittal plane, the frontal plane, horizontal transfers. They'll do balance and coordination exercises. Depends on the gym and the program. You may go there and someone may say, "Hey, you're going to do burpees for 27 minutes and you're going to sweat, puke, and pass out. That's a great workout." And unfortunately, they may say, "Hey, that's all I do, and it works for me." And so people might listen to that. People may buy into it. That's. I'm not saying that's the wrong way. It is, but that's not our way. That's not what we do. That's not what we do here. At least, we're a strength and conditioning gym that uses CrossFit, some maybe adopted movements and workouts, and some of the tests that they have. We do compete in sport here, so we have the competitive athletes that do competitions, and maybe some a little scaled back, some a little bit more complex, depending on the experience and the training age, of course. Like American kettlebell swings, we will never program American kettlebell swings again. We used to, but then we started realizing like people's necks were getting injured, their shoulders were getting injured from doing this. So we went back and said, "Hey, we're only going to pull a Russian swing or maybe a Russian power swing. We're pulling it down." So that's a major thing.
Are there any other movements besides the American swing that you guys maybe will reserve only for the competitive athletes, or
yes, absolutely.
Nobody will do it at all?
Like we're not going to program a high rep box jump here. You'll
the rebounding kind.
Yeah, bounding or even just, they don't have to be bounding. If you're just doing high rep, I don't like it for the soleus, to be honest with you. I think it shoots it out. We may put it in a Metcon, like 5 high box jumps out the gate for the phosphagen system, and then go into something else. But as far as like, if someone has to do 50 box jumps in a competition, they know. Mostly the competitive athletes are, like I said, back squatting over 1.5 times their body weight. Most of them have a double body weight back squat if they're competing, or close to. But, that's a little bit, like I said, a little bit more complex of a movement. They have to be a little bit more experienced in training age, and it's totally different entities as a sport and a general fitness tool. Right? Someone doesn't really need to do that. That's not their focus. So, but yeah, that's all. I guess that's about right.
And we touched on this a little bit before, but you said you program on a 4-week cycles, and then you also break the year into quarters. How? Yes. So it's not random. And if you did back squats yesterday, you're probably not going to do back squats today.
No. So for example, I'll give you an example of the week, which makes up the month of November, and then I'll give you an idea of what we're doing for the quarter, and then I'll give you a little bit more of a pull back perspective for the whole year. So we are focusing. So on every Monday, they're going to go into a clean position, and there's always going to be a vertical press on a Monday, whether it's a standing strict press, a vertical press, a dumbbell press, a push press, incorporate it in a thruster, a med ball throw.
So wherever they are on that progression, that continue.
Yes, there's always going to be some type of vertical press on a Monday. Tuesday, they're always going to do a front squat. There's always going to either do a front squat or a goblet squat. It's going to be paused because we're looking to strengthen more core and that front rack position for that top thoracic cavity. That's a vertical pull day as well, and a horizontal pull day. So they will conduct strict pull-ups and ring rows. Some people will be doing dumbbell rows. That's a big common one that we have there.
So the ring row is the regression from the pull-up?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. And then we'll just slightly increase the angle. We're a big fan and user of saying, hey, distance is resistance here. And we do teach our clients and hope that they understand what moment arm is in regards to physics and biomechanics and whatnot. And we're really happy about that, and saying like, hey, our average client knows a good bare minimum to be more aware of their body and what's right and what's wrong. Chris Lee, physical therapist. It's a good guy on board.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, let me get that for you. I got the door ranger rigged. I'll be out in 10-15 minutes. Is that right, buddy? He really helps out a lot as well, having a physical therapist on staff going over the programming with him. So anyway, that's every Wednesday we use a snatch position for stability and strength. People might just use PVC pipe to get in a proper position and hold it there, while more experienced athletes or clients in the class perform that movement. Does everybody want to learn the snatch? No. Does everybody need the snatch? No, not everybody needs the snatch. But there's parts in a snatch that can be broken down and utilized, which can make somebody a more optimal human. And it's a group. This is basically group personal training. And in group personal training, some people say, hey, we all want to lose fat together. We all want to get stronger together. We all want to get conditioned together. We want to sprint faster. So this is small group personal training with a general outline, a daily outline. So for example, August, September, and October, it was very strength oriented. We used the big three a lot. We did a variation of the 5-3-1 program, Jim Wendler's, and then we added gymnastics as the auxiliary tool. So that, in a sense, is what creates it to be CrossFit, right? You're cross-training in multiple ways. You have basically powerlifting, and then you have gymnastics. And then there's a little bit of conditioning that we do, just to maintain cardiorespiratory stamina and endurance. And we'll do that for 3 months. That makes up a corner, a strength focus. And now we're more into a power focus, where we maintain strength and then progress into a little bit more. So the movements get a little bit more complex for those that are ready to. The positions from them help and reinforce strength anyway. Instead of back squatting, we are front squatting now. Well, so we don't have imbalances. We don't want back squat all year round. You want to create balance in that year. So and we'll do that for another 3 months. It'll be November, December, and January. Now, when you get into February, now you're getting closer to the CrossFit season. So now, usually the open starts and the workouts are very power conditioned, right? Your body goes in intervals during the open, in short times and a little bit longer, all lasting anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. That's what you can expect. So we take these powerful movements that we learn. Now we kind of lighten the load intensity and increase the speed and the rep count of them for those that are ready to progress. And if not, we'll stick to that beginner standard for the training age. And then after the open's done, that's what we consider like the postseason, except if we make it to regionals, like for those people. And if not, then we kind of relax a little bit. We do a little bit more muscular strength and endurance. We also incorporate single joint movements. We don't believe that single joint movements are pointless at all. And we have a theory here and a saying. It's like if a single muscle can deter you from performing your best. So to leave it weak and not let it help you. For example, if someone has a very weak bicep, that's not gonna help them to do a pull up. Mm-hmm. So you do single joint movements. Sometimes you won't have a conditioner that day. You may just be doing single joint movements to just get a little bit more strength in. So I think that's a little bit out of the norm in the CrossFit community. And it's taken for granted for people that aren't in the CrossFit community. They just think it's kind of one way. And people ask what it is all the time. They're like, what is CrossFit? And it's CrossFit is just a strength and conditioning program, depending on who's programming it for you. And that's it. If you train in multiple domains, like if you're a power lifter, an Olympic weightlifter, a gymnast, a triathlete, sprinter, sports, whatever you are, if you're training in multiple ways, that's cross-training CrossFit. So, I don't know. I'd say that's the biggest difference that we would have here. I hope I didn't spin off into something else from what you asked.
No, that's perfect. That one thing you said, I think leads in really well to the last misconception that I wanted to talk about. So you said as you get closer to the open, you're reducing the load reducing the intensity and increasing the speeds. How do you guys deal with breakdowns in form when racing against the clock?
When it's against the clock, we usually give scenarios. The coach usually gives scenarios of how they should break it down. For example, if there's a traditional Metcon and you have five heavy push presses, let's say, followed by 10 hand release push-ups, and 2 minutes of jumping rope, double unders or singles, whatever it is. That's like your oxidative pathway. If somebody can't do 5 heavy push presses, they shouldn't. We may say, hey, you know what? You're going to break down a little bit sooner than everybody. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to scale you back. All right, you're going to put on a load that you can do about 8 to 12 times, a little bit more beginner. Okay, as soon as we see you or you feel yourself moving in a non-optimal way, we want you to stop, look at the clock, take 15 to 20 seconds off, and then go back up. Sometimes we say split it in 2, rep range. Sometimes we tell them to take a little bit longer of a break. Sometimes we stop them on our own from perceived exertion. That's a standard from National Strength and Conditioning Association. They say if you see perceived exertion and it's leading more towards injury, than something productive, then just stop your client. And that's what we do. And you have to be humble enough to do that. And I will say we really do have great clients here. They really trust us. They let us take the wheel and steer it, and they have great attitudes about it. So that makes it very helpful. And we have some really great athletes here, and then we literally have people that haven't ever worked out in their life, that are in their 70s and 80s, but just moving better.
And they're all working out together.
Essentially.
Right. So it's to reiterate, it sounds like the number one thing is setting them up for success by, whatever's on the whiteboard. That's what the most elite athlete is going to do, and then we're going to individualize it for each person. And then, even though the clock is ticking, going around the room as the WOD is going and being like, hey, take a break or scale it back a little bit or whatever you have to do. Not just being like, okay, get as many reps as you can for the next 10 minutes, regardless of what it looks like.
Yeah, like I said, we teach everyone how to move. Once they move properly, for what they want and what they need, we may say, hey, okay, now we're going to add a little bit more weight. We're going to add a little bit more time. We're going to add a little bit more reps. Sometimes we may go take a step back depending on what day it is, there's so many factors involved, and it's always, there's nothing really ever set in stone, like I said. It's always something different each day. How much sleep somebody got, how much food did they eat, when did they eat it, are they coming off an active job? These are things that we expect everyone here to kind of know about our clientele, and that they're supposed to know about themselves. And the more we communicate, know about each other, the better the planning can be, the more we can help you.
Mm-hmm.
If I have an EMT or a cop or a nurse that's coming off a 12-hour shift, and then they went home for 4 hours, now it's 16 hours in, they haven't eaten, their workout is going to be completely different than the rest of the class.
Mm-hmm. And this is silly, but something that we were talking about in my evidence-based sports medicine class the other day, just asking the athlete how they feel.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
It really is so simple. It's say, is anything sore? Is anything aching? If someone gets there early and their butt's cramping up, hey, grab a piece of PVC pipe and let's roll out the left glute a little bit more. And then, if I know somebody has valgus in their knees, I'm going to try and say, hey, as soon as you come in, a little 2 minutes earlier, put some bands around your knees. Let's activate the abductors a little bit. And it's cool that they are picking up on the lingo of it, and if they're not picking up on the lingo of it, they're understanding it. And even if they're not understanding it, they're trusting us.
Right.
And they're feeling better. You put that with a balanced diet and good rest and a good attitude, life just gets better. You make friends doing it in the process, which is cool too. The community helps a lot. Like I said, everybody knows where everybody starts and what it feels like. So it's kind of like a going through a hardship to get some gratification and when you do it in a group setting. It's cool. It makes you feel like you're a part of a team.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things about CrossFit is the community aspect. And when I go to a gym and I see everybody working out together, even if one person's doing double unders and one person is jogging in place, it just it forces you to go hard. And then when you have these good coaches like you and your staff, and go hard and be safe, it's a great environment for success.
It's like I was saying before, everybody kind of holds each other accountable at class. The coaches hold the athletes accountable, the athletes hold the athletes accountable, and then the athletes hold the coaches accountable. Everyone's progressing together. Everyone lets everybody know what their goals are and what they're trying to do. Someone doesn't show up for class. Someone's usually going to text them, message them, call them, and say, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? So it gives more of a community sense. And then same with the coaches. The coaches sign up to compete in things with the athletes or, by themselves, and they say, hey, I'm going to be competing here. And I think that's important for the clients to see the coaches perform, and then vice versa when you see or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a CrossFit competition. So the accountability factor, at least in our gym, definitely has a lot to do with the produced results. So, and I think that's lacking in a lot of places.
Absolutely. So, just to wrap up, we've talked about a bunch of the misconceptions. Are there any other things that come to mind that you think the public or that gets misrepresented about CrossFit that you think that your box does a particularly good job at?
Misconceptions. I think in a nutshell, it's there's no end all be all to any program. Everything's different, case by case. There's no such thing as CrossFit. There's training in multiple ways, which is cross training. There may be some movements or workouts that CrossFit has used more of and kind of adopted. So when people see that movement, they think of CrossFit because CrossFit used it a lot or showed it off a lot or whatever it is. But these are movements over time that have been used for years and years and years. They're always going to be used. CrossFit could disappear, but the movements won't. But cross-training will never disappear either. Someone goes in the gym, they lift some weights, and then they get on a treadmill. That's strength, and then there's some conditioning. So that's all it is in a nutshell. There's misconceptions are always going to happen with fitness and stuff. And especially because there's so many sports and movements and ways to go about it that CrossFit does.
And especially as CrossFit grows so quickly and the gyms are sprouting up left and right.
I wish that there was more accountability by the gym, to be honest with you. I would love for someone to come in here and assess us and see what type of information we're putting out and distroing to our clientele for our region. To be honest with you, I wish maybe a quarterly accountability as far as like standards go and whatnot. I would love that. Maybe random.
And maybe secret too, like you don't know that the person is coming
sending in someone to drop in, and then secretly they're assessing it. Anything, like hotel management or restaurant management. I would really love that because that would do nothing but just raise the standards across the board, and it would keep everybody, I would hope so, a little bit more accountable. And if you're confident in your methods, your practices, and what you're preaching and whatnot, then you have no worries about it. And it's going to I think that's going to, like I said, there's that accountability again, right? That's going to make it breathe deeper into just anything, and anything in general. Whether it was fitness or not. So I don't want to, I feel like I'm talking too much.
Nah, thanks so much, Tom.
Yeah, dude, this was fun, man. We had my wheels spinning. I don't think about it. We just do it. We think about it, but not as much.
Well, I think a lot of thought goes into it for you guys, and then when you're applying it, because you've thought so much about it before, it just it flows. It sounds like you guys are doing a great job.
I hope so, and people are happy, and they say they feel better, they're looking better.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll have to do it again soon.